I woke up grinning at sirens. Breakfast was battle rations apparently this morning. The wailing overhead wasn't the usual city drill but the genuine alarm. A piercing chorus splitting open the sky. As dark figures pushed down through the cloud cover, others panicked, scattering into shelters and basements. But not me. I was standing on the roof of my building with a banner in my hand. Not Earth's banner. Earth. Ripped from a reckless scout who had touched down too soon 3 nights ago and never made it. They believed themselves sly, slipping past defenses under midnights. Well, but they hadn't crossed paths with me yet. I had waited still as the stars, because when their fleet finally pierced the atmosphere I wanted them to witness, their own emblem already waving in human hands, they fell like blades, black voids, flickering with green flame, their weapons snapping alive in the pale dawn. I could almost feel their confusion. Inside the cockpits, why was their holy standard raised by a girl in sweatpants on a gray rooftop in Philadelphia? Was she grinning as if candles had been lit for her birthday? Their commander, or simply the loudest voice, cast a roar across the city, harsh guttural tones, layered with cracks and growls. But the translation units below were swift. Submit, humans. We deliver order. We deliver your salvation. Resist and you will be erased. His decree still echoed when I thrust their flag higher and shouted back, "You already lost something." The first strike followed. Seconds later, blasts of plasma shredded skyscrapers, carving molten scars into glass and steel. The ground trembled. Fires clawed upward, choking the air. But even as the devastation spread, something else stirred. Our reply. The Air Force had lain dormant, hidden in mountain hangars, saving strength for this moment. From the west came the rumble of engines, wings launching into the heavens, white contrails slicing toward the alien fleet. Missiles shrieked. The war had begun. I clenched the alien flag tighter as detonations split the morning. Around me the roof rattled beneath shockwaves, but I stood firm. My task was different, one no soldier or commander could achieve. 'Cause 3 nights earlier when I wrestled this banner from that doomed scout, I had uncovered something more. Crystal of data vibrating with commands, not meant for us, but raised by coders and hackers. I saw a locked file as nothing but a challenge. I spent sleepless hours, fingers racing, unraveling alien script, until their intent was clear. They believed Earth would collapse in hours, that our networks would crumble once their silent virus spread through orbit. They didn't expect me to stay awake, caffeine buzzing, cracking their systems like cheap toys. At sunrise, as their ships poured fire, I was already inside their network, sliding instructions through a blind door they hadn't sealed. They preached order and deliverance. I whispered detours and reversals. The skies above Philadelphia looked lost. For a breath, beams tearing block after block. But then one vessel veered sideways, colliding with its own ally. A roar rose from the streets. It wasn't rockets. It was me. Every override I fired spread wider like sparks chasing dry tinder. My rooftop keyboard was the match, their entire fleet the fuel. Below, faces turned upward, some begging me to hide, others pointing as though they sensed the tide had shifted. More ships faltered, their fire sputtering, their shields breaking apart. Squadrons lunged forward, ripping through gaps wide enough to fly trucks through. I swung their banner like a flare. Across the horizon, more human power erupted, submarines surfacing to fire, counterstrikes sparking in orbit, tanks rolling from tunnels under freeways. Earth had never been idle. We had been waiting. And today the invaders learned that humans fight raw, humans fight loud, and humans fight side by side. I shouted into the burning heavens, knowing they couldn't hear my voice. Welcome to Earth. Hope you bought insurance. Their leader barked another command. This time static fractured it as my code devoured his channel. He likely believed he still held control, but half his forces already burned. Through smoke and ash, a colossal warship split formation, angling straight toward my rooftop. They'd spotted me at last. Perfect, was the intention. I stood steady as the Leviathan descended, its shadow drowning blocks, its cannons glowing like captive. If they wanted me, they'd have to descend where Earth's streets devour giants and every alley hides teeth. From below, people once paralyzed with fear now surged upward, rifles raised, weapons scavenged from homes. The invasion had aimed to fracture us, but instead it bound us. Boy barely 16 near the corner shop lifted a slingshot, firing a stone at the ship and shouting reckless defiance. His pebble left no mark, but the statement echoed louder than alarms. We weren't bowing. We were climbing. The warship drifted closer, hull groaning, cannons priming to erase my rooftop from memory. I raised their flag high one last time, yelling words I knew they'd decode. You drop this. And as the first beam charged, the heavens cracked again. Not from their fire, but from ours. A shot that should have vaporized me never landed. Instead, the warship stalled mid-assault, cannons burning but locked. Caught in the trap I planted hours ago, when I first split their code. Their flagship's weapons sputtered, collapsing. With a faint whine, their glow shrinking, like dying embers. A wave of silence spread across the battlefield as human and alien alike froze at the impossible. And then the silence shattered in thunder. From the mountains, from the seas, from deserts where secret bases had waited in silence for decades, humanity's hidden arsenal surged into the light. Stealth craft we were told never existed sliced through the sky. Drones swarmed in thick clouds like swarms of insects. Artillery thundered from deep vaults, while orbital cannons fired from stations long disguised as harmless weathersats. For years the world mocked conspiracy believers, but every rumor was real. And today those secrets roared awake. The invaders stumbled, their flawless formations splintering as their fleet faced threats they had never expected. I hunched over my laptop, fingers flying, sweat dripping down my spine. The deeper I pried into their systems, the wider the gate swung. Each vessel had been built to obey its core like a hive. But now that loyalty served me. One tap, and I turned a frigate's guns on its escort, fire blossoming against dawn. Another keystroke, and a cruiser's barrier collapsed long enough for human missiles to tear through its hull. My rooftop trembled with every blast, but I kept grinning, high on the symphony of destruction that to me wasn't chaos. It was music. In the streets, the city had transformed. A place that had cowered an hour ago was now roaring with defiance. Firefighters dropped hoses to shoulder rifles. Children hauled ammo crates to the lines. Neighbors who had never spoken before stood shoulder to shoulder. Aliens had misjudged us badly. They thought fear was the universal truth. But human fear ignites into fury. They weren't fighting an army anymore. They were fighting a species that had been sharpening blades since the first sparks lit the dark. Above, the massive warship hanging over me jerked again. Its engines sputtered, its crew slamming controls, mandibles clicking in panic, glowing eyes wide with hope. Firewalls slammed shut, code barriers falling like steel doors. I slipped past everyone. Their system was perfect for minds like theirs. Too bad. I was human, reckless, unpredictable. I sealed their internal hatches, locking troops in corridors, sending them into fury. The ship groaned, sinking lower, metal screaming as gravity claimed it. It wasn't destroyed, its pilot had lost control. With one line of code I spun its engines, slowly at first, then faster. The enormous craft began to turn like a carousel, sunlight flashing off its skin. On the ground, laughter and cheers erupted. Their gods looked like clumsy toys. And then the vessel smashed into one of its own carriers with a blast that shattered windows across districts. Flames surged, the sky blazing orange as debris poured downward. But even in this victory, the danger burned on. Hundreds of enemy ships still prowled, weapons cutting, soldiers pouring into streets. Avenues turned into battlefields. Human troops met towering armored figures, rifles spitting against plasma blades. Tanks thundered forward while drones darted through towers. A storm of fire, steel, and blood engulfed the city. Everywhere people stood taller. A baker hurled boiling oil at an alien, forcing into her shop. An old man in a wheelchair wired bombs under a bridge, detonating them as walkers crossed. Children called coordinates over hacked radios, guiding artillery with sharp precision. Earth wasn't fighting like an army, it was fighting like a people. Every breath turned weapon. I felt the invaders cracking, their confidence collapsing. They believed their tech made them gods. They never counted on endurance, on invention, on the stubbornness of humans refusing to. From my rooftop I dove deeper, hacking into their command web. Burst crackled in my headset, the commander's voice raging, demanding to know how we breached the unbreachable. His words trembled with disbelief. This cannot be. Primitive beings cannot override superior design. I smiled, speaking into my mic, my words echoing across their own lines. Guess what? Your blueprints never met. Caffeine and spite. Alien squadrons erupted into civil war. Half under my hand, the others lashing out in confusion. Their ships tore into each other while human pilots darted through the carnage, striking again and again. Each blast painted the dawn brighter. Each fallen enemy fed the roar of humanity rising from below. The fight was far from over, but momentum was ours. The aliens knew it. Their forces fractured, some retreating, others diving low in fury, burning blocks to dust in hope of breaking us. But for every ruin they made, 10 humans rose, bloodied but unbroken, answering fire with fire. Their largest vessels regrouped on the edge of the city, building a wall of metal around their flagship. 'Twas a last stand, a desperate shield to hold. They clung to the idea that their strength could be rebuilt. But I was already inside their command hub, watching their leader pace his bridge, unaware that the girl waving his stolen flag was rewriting the Empire's collapse, one keystroke at a time. The alien flagship hung above like a wounded beast, hull scorched, escorts falling apart as humanity pressed on. I could feel their fear bleeding through every intercepted call. They scrambled to unite for a final strike, but their networks belonged to me now. Their flagship's lights sputtered like a storm-battered torch, and every command they made echoed through my laptop. I stood atop the rooftop, wind clawing at my hair, their banner still clutched in my grip as I worked faster than I ever had before. The city lay beaten, whole blocks reduced to rubble. But everywhere people were rising from the wreckage. Survivors flooded the streets, armed with whatever they could carry. Soldiers advanced with fire in their gaze. And children who had been hiding in basements carried supplies to the fighters. Humanity wasn't collapsing. Humanity was rallying in a way the invaders had never dreamed. The leader of their fleet appeared on my screen, his jagged face twisted with fury. He roared, his words breaking in translation but clear enough. "You are insects under my heel. You will not take my throne." I smiled steadily and lifted their banner so he could see it through the hacked channel. "You already lost it," I told him. His roar rattled the feed before it cut off, but I was already dismantling the foundation of his control. One by one, I seized the alien ships, forcing them to turn on each other. Carriers slammed into escorts. Warships spiraled out of rank. Cruisers poured fire into their own shields as if struck by madness. Above, human fighters slashed through the chaos, striking every gap I carved open. Missiles streaked into weak points. Bombs tore holes in alien hulls. The sky over the city became a storm of unraveling fire. Like the heavens themselves were spilling sparks. Yet their command ship still towered, vast and whole, its weapon banks charging. The commander wasn't retreating. He meant to crush us himself, to leave Earth's ruins as his victory shrine. His cannons tilted downward, the glow swelling until it looked like the sun was reborn inside them. I typed frantically, sweat burning my eyes, my pulse hammering so hard I feared my ribs might break. Then I uncovered it, a core command hidden beneath layers of alien script. Their arrogance had masked it in plain view, certain no human could ever read the tongue of 1,000-star empires. I didn't just read it, I rewrote it. As the commander shouted orders, his own system betrayed him. The massive cannons dimmed. Their power turned inward. The glow meant to erase us instead devoured his own vessel. The energy spiraled into its heart, trembling like a caged star before erupting. The blast tore across the sky, consuming the flagship in a thunderclap so bright the morning turned white. Shock waves swept the city, rattling walls, slamming me flat against the rooftop. When the light at last faded, the command vessel was gone, replaced by a boiling cloud of flame and ash. Silence held for a heartbeat, then cheers erupted. It began as one cry from the street below. Then dozens, then hundreds. People screamed, sang, and laughed through tears as they realized the impossible had happened. Humanity had not just endured, they had destroyed their oppressors. The alien fleet, shattered without its master, broke in panic. Some ships fled to orbit only to be hunted down by hidden railguns. Others fell blazing, crashing into seas or burning into nothing before they touched the earth. Reports poured in across the globe. London, Tokyo, Nairobi, Sao Paulo. Everywhere the same. Humanity was driving them back, winning city by city, sky by sky. I lowered their banner, not as a taunt but as a prize. The one sacred emblem of invaders now belonged to Earth. Proof that we had twisted their pride into their downfall. From my rooftop I watched the streets. Strangers embraced. Soldiers raised rifles high. Children danced in the rubble. Smoke hung thick in the air. But beneath it, hope blazed brighter than ever. For the first time since dawn, I let myself breathe. We had been dismissed, branded fragile, chaotic, unworthy of the stars. But today proved the truth. We weren't fragile. We were fire. We weren't chaotic. We were unpredictable. And unpredictability is the sharpest weapon. They came to enslave us, to carve Earth into their empire. Instead, they left in wreckage, broken by the very species they mocked. Humanity triumphed, not through flawless machines or perfect tactics, but through something no invader could design or calculate. We had persistence, imagination, and a will that would not bend. Even when the sky itself fell, the war became more than survival. It became a proclamation. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was not a forgotten outpost. Humanity had risen, claiming its place among the stars with defiance in its chest and victory in its grasp. I folded their banner and slung it across my shoulder, climbing down from the rooftop as dawn crept over the shattered city. Around me, people were already rebuilding, dragging survivors free, passing water, mending wounds. We had lost much, but we had preserved the most important thing, our spirit. The invasion was finished. Earth was ours. And the stars were watching. Let them.